Okay, so now that we have our alien rendered out, I'm just going to go into After Effects, and this is CS6, wherever it would say help. Come on, help about CS6. You can also use CS5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, blast off. Any one will work. So under the Project tab here, I'm just going to double click, or I could right click and import file. Okay, so I'm going to double click, and I'm going to go to my Images folder, and I'm going to find my alien render. There it is. I'm going to make sure that if sequence is clicked, and I'm going to hit open. It's going to ask me some stuff here. I'm just going to say ignore. And then I'm going to right click, interpret the footage, main, set this to 24, and on the bottom I would have a OK box. I can't see it, so I'm just going to enter. And then I'm just going to drag this onto this new comp button. There's this interpret footage button, a folder button, and then this create new comp button. I'm just going to drag this onto the new comp button. Okay, now you'll see it's a lot darker than when I render this out. If you remember when we were in Maya, we click this button on here to say enable color management. We want to bring in sRGB images, and we want to send out linear. When we did this on the vehicle one, the radio one, we changed this before we rendered to sRGB. Okay, but this time we left it to linear sRGB. So what I'm showing here is that we're dealing with a linear image. Okay, so this image is linear. Now there's ways inside of After Effects to say I want to work with a linear image, but what we're going to do is one thing just to kind of fix the gamma inside here. That's all we need to do. So if I click on the footage and I go to Effect, and I go to Color Correction, and I go to Exposure, you can see there's a gamma correction right here. Right now it's set to 1, which is just regular. If I set it to 2.2, I'll get the same image we had inside Maya. So now when I hit play, which is the space bar, or this play button over here, you'll see that we have essentially the same image that we had inside of Maya. So we have our flag, we have our particles here, we have our little alien dude. Okay, and remember this is, my screen res is half what it typically is, so I'm at a lower resolution here, but at 100%, I'm really going to get closer to that alien and see some of that subsurface scattering we set up. Some of the textures could use work. I'm really not happy with the way this one turned out, but for what our assignment was, I'm not too terribly upset about it. I'd probably like these things to be rotated more to show off some of the top side of it. And then where's our other one? There you go. But everything else seems to turn out pretty good. Okay, so that's it. So now I just need to go to either File, Export, Add to Render Queue, or Composition, Add to Render Queue, or Composition, Make Movie. Depending on which version you're in, it's going to be called something different. Sometimes you'll get a pop-up window that'll say, do you want to save this, blah, blah, blah. Just hit save or whatever. We'll do it again later. So here's the output modules. I'm going to click on the word lossless. And in here, I'm going to change my format to QuickTime. It always starts at the top, format to QuickTime. And then under the format options, I'm going to make sure this is set to H264. This is all the way up to 100. Good. These are good. At unchecked, hit OK. Hit OK. Output 2, I click the button here. And this is where I'm going to be rendering my stuff out to. So I'm going to make sure that I have this called alien something, and I'll call it Sarcona, and I also want to add in underscore 2500 underscore fall 13. Okay, so the name of the project, my name, 2510 fall 2013, and we'll save, and we'll render. And this render obviously will take a lot less time than our previous renders do inside of Maya. And the little chime means that we're good. Okay. Now some of the stuff we didn't spend a whole lot of time on, just so you're aware, like this little smoke trail here, it looks very blobby. Even the one back there, it's kind of hard to see back here that it's doing it. But when we get closer here, it becomes apparent that we're again dealing with something that's not very realistic looking. Okay, and I did that on purpose because I didn't want to spend too much time on these little items because I wanted to be able to get something out. Now this here, if I switch back to my projects, there it is, and I scroll down inside here, I have some other stuff that I've done. Just ignore these. I'm just going to re-import some of these other ones. And you'll see that by re-importing, it doesn't actually add it to the comp, it just imports it. That's all it does. That's all it's doing. It's kind of like a library of different things. And then we can add those as we wish. I don't know if the fluids one's any good, but we'll just see. And fire 3. Okay, so that should be good enough. Alright, so I have this guy here. This is asteroid hit. So this is just something to play around with some of the actual like, realistic looking fluids or realistic looking special effects. You can see here, this looks like smoke. This looks like some sort of fiery ball flying at it. And then the smoke just dissipates into the air. Okay. Here's another one. This one, there's actually a box here, and the box is going to hit the ground. It's going to break up into pieces. Okay, and then there's a bunch of smoke and stuff. And you can see with this one, when the box hits the ground, chunks of the ground kind of fly up. You can see these little rocks right here flying up. Here's some just fire. And here's some more fire. And this is just some fluid fiery effects. Okay. So we can do that, but this stuff here takes a long time to render just by itself. If I look at that fluids one, just with the fluid effect, just with that fiery effect on there, it took me about, let me go to a further thing. Let's say I was getting about 3 frames a minute. Okay, so about 20 seconds a frame. So it's going to add an extra 20 seconds onto each frame just to get those out. Now some of these, like the asteroid breakup, that was taking 2 minutes a frame. So you can see how some of this stuff could just add onto that render time and really make it take a lot longer than we'd want it to. Just the regular asteroid hit with the fire coming in was an extra minute. Okay, so we kind of down-resed some of the stuff that we were doing, but you can see how, the power of Maya, we can do this kind of stuff. I'm not going to say simply, but we can do it and make it look very realistic. Okay, this whole thing maybe took me like an hour to build inside Maya, and the rendering was what took a lot of time. Okay, so that's it. Let me just quickly just rush through that process again. So I'm going to go to my project, double click, alien sequence, make sure it's clicked. Hit open, ignore the alpha channel. I'm going to right click, interpret footage main, and set this to 24 frames per second. I'm going to drag this onto my new comp button. I'm going to go to effect, color correction, exposure, set the gamma correction to 2.2, go to composition, add to render queue, click the word lossless, change the format to QuickTime. Change the format options to H264. These are unchecked. This is up high. Hit OK. Hit OK. Click this here. Name it project. Your name 2510 F13. Save. Yes. And render. Okay. So that's the After Effects extent that we need to go into. Okay, now when you have your movie, if I were to double click this or open this with QuickTime, and here it's going to be a little bit washed out. Okay, it doesn't really look correct in here. It looks actually a little bit washed out, and that's just a QuickTime feature. So we're going to go to Window, and you have to have QuickTime Pro to do this, so the college has that, so make sure you do it at the college. Movie Properties. We're going to click on the video track and go to Visual Settings. We're going to take this transparency down here to Blend, pull it all the way up to 100, take the transparency from Blend to Straight Alpha, and close it. Okay, so now if we click and drag inside here, there it goes, you'll see that now we have the exact same thing we had inside of After Effects. So then we just save it, and then we can turn it in. Okay, so that's it. That's as simple as we need to get. So when you turn this in, you're also going to be turning in your project folder. Okay, I don't need the images. So if I go to my desktop, oops, that's not it. If I go to my D drive and I go to my 2510 folder, this is my latest folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it to the desktop. Okay. Now this is going to take a few minutes just because I have all those other renderings inside there, but I want you to see that we have to be able to clean this stuff out. Sometimes you'll be working on a job and they just want the Maya project, okay? And they don't want to have all the images that rendered out because they're going to render out their own images. So they're going to use your geometry and your textures in order for all that stuff to be kind of put together. So I'm copying it first to the desktop. So I held Control and I dragged it to the desktop. Or you could right-click and copy, and then right-click and paste. The point is that we don't want to move this to the desktop because then it's gone. We don't want to do it right inside this folder because it would ruin anything if we wanted to save any of it. Okay, so once this is copied to the desktop, we'll wait. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to go through and clean out the folders that don't need anything else in them. Okay, basically assets should be empty. Autosave should be empty. I don't need any autosaves. Okay, the cache. In this case, because I did particles and stuff, I have these cache files, and if I look at them, okay, this one's only 17 kilobytes. That's not terrible. This one's not too bad either. I actually already cleaned this out earlier. Okay, so I can delete the cache folder. Clips should be empty. Data should be empty. Here's where the big one's going to be is inside images. So inside here, I'm just going to go through and delete all these images. You see I'm just dragging straight down to the bottom. There we go. And deleting, yes, 1,000 things. That's the bulk of it. 1.6 gigs is gone. There's also a temp folder. Every time you hit render, like you click the little render button inside of Maya up here, it saves a temp file. So all of these are just the temp renders that I did. Okay, so that can be deleted also. Movies shouldn't have anything. Render data shouldn't have anything in this. Okay, and even if it did, I can just delete that folder. Scripts doesn't matter. Sound doesn't matter. XGen, in this case, I have this folder. It doesn't matter. Okay, I can delete that. Okay, so realistically, the only thing I need in here, I'm going to keep the images folder and just keep it empty. These three folders: images, scenes, source images. And then inside the images folder, I'm just going to make sure it's empty. Okay? And the source images we need because it has all the stuff like our moon bump and our metal fence texture and our sky that we used and the alien's eye. Okay? So we have to keep the source images in here. We have to keep the scenes because that's our actual scene work. And we have to keep, we don't have to keep the images folder, I just like to. Also inside scenes, we may have like 700 scenes inside here just based on different ways that we saved our stuff. So I'm going to go through and delete everything that's not my last file. So I'm deleting all the stuff except for my very last one, which was my Alien 05 ready to render. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken our file from 1.06 gigabytes to 17 megabytes. Okay, so this is something much more manageable that we could give to a client and say, okay, here's our work that we did. So you can just add it to your work, or you can render it out in your stations or whatever you want to do and go from there. Okay, so you're going to turn in this folder and you're going to turn in that movie. Okay, and then that'll be it.